Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Hardboiled English Live. I'm your host, Teacher Paul Duke. We are streaming to you live from Vancouver, Canada. That's on the west coast of Canada. Welcome to the show. Please say hello in the comment thread and tell us what country you're watching from. Always a thrill to see our friends all over the world tuning in. For those of you who don't know me, let me introduce myself. I am the host and creator of Hardboiled English, the YouTube channel. And on that channel, you can find a variety of my projects, including my main video series, English Weirdness. This is a series I've made with my students. And we use drama, we use animations, and we explore in depth some of the strange parts of English grammar. Also on the YouTube channel, you'll find a podcast that I co-host with my friends and colleagues Anish Daya and John McGraw. And our most recent episode is with Mr. Kawatani Takashi, who's a very accomplished cross-cultural management consultant. So tune into that. You can also watch that on Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, anywhere the podcasts are available, you can tune in. Or you can watch us on the video version. In addition, guys, I have a special announcement. Coming up on March 1st, I have a special English writing webinar happening. This is a live event, and let's bring the graphic up. It's entitled, What is a Hook and Why Does My Writing Need One? This is March 1st at 12 p.m. Vancouver time, which is Pacific Standard Time. So please calculate your time. Now, this is a free event, but you need to register in advance. So I'm going to put up a graphic of my email address. I want you to email me and tell me that you want to join the webinar. So I think we have my email there. Yes, sign up to attend my free writing webinar on March 1st, hardboiledenglish6@gmail.com, okay? So just send me a quick little email telling me that you want to join the webinar, and then I'll send you a confirmation email with a link, okay? This is a free event, and we're going to explore some of the writing topics involved with writing a hook. Okay? So let's get the show started. This is the show where you ask me questions and I do my best to provide you an answer. So let's say hello to our friends around the world. Who's joining us tonight? We have Bargain Betty from the Twilight Zone. Geez. Betty moved from the moon where she previously resided and now she's living in the Twilight Zone. Gosh. We have Araceli from Mexico joining us, Rega R. We have Chieko Kitaoka joining us. Chieko, where are you right now? Where in the world are you? We have Tirath, my friend and colleague in Nepal. Welcome, Tirath. We have Wako from Japan. Who else is joining us? Say hello in the comment thread, guys, and tell me what country you're watching from. Very exciting to see you all here. Thank you for joining me. Some of you will notice that last week I had to cancel. Now, it wasn't because I was sick. It wasn't because we've had electrical problems in the studio, which we've had in the past. It was because I had to spend the entire day cleaning my apartment because I had a mouse visitor. A whole family of mice had moved into my apartment and were driving me nuts. So I had to spend the day cleaning, and it cut into my time to prepare for the show. So thank you for your patience, and thank you for coming back. Okay? We'll get going in a minute with our first vocabulary segment. Who else is joining us? We have Maria Cristina. Chris from Brazil. Welcome, Chris. Nice to see you again. Okay, guys. Well, we have someone else joining us. Okay, that's an excellent question, Araceli. I'm going to go to the vocabulary segment first, and then we'll come back to your question, okay? And I do have one outstanding question from the last show that I have to cover. I always try to make sure, if I run out of time to answer your questions, to make sure that I answer it on the next show. And 2 weeks ago, I had a guest on the show, and we occupied most of the time. Okay, let's get right to our vocabulary segment, guys. We have Mohedun Mola from Bangladesh. Welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us. Okay, guys, so every week I introduce a new piece of vocabulary Last year we focused on words that you can use instead of using good, which is pretty vague and subjective, doesn't have a lot of meaning. This year we're focusing on words that are negative, words to use instead of bad. So our first segment of words to use instead of bad. And today's word I want to introduce you to is regrettable. Regrettable. So this is an adjective and it means something is making you feel sad or sorry about something that you wish had not happened. Okay? So either you did something regrettable, or someone you know did something regrettable, or that thing, remember it's an adjective, so it has to describe a thing, a noun, that thing is regrettable. So oftentimes we would say things like, her decision to, I don't know, her decision to work at blank incorporated was regrettable. Why? Because blank incorporated wasn't a very good job. So her decision to work there was bad. She regrets it. She wishes she had not worked there. Okay? Or the people, you know, this happens in politics, right? The people elected a regrettable politician. Okay, they elected someone and then later they regretted it because he turned out to be a bad politician. Okay, so what I'd like you to do, guys, is I want you to try using this word in a sentence in the comment thread. Okay, now it's an adjective, so you have to describe a noun. Okay, and there are basically two structures for that. There is the subject plus be verb plus adjective. It was regrettable, or the decision to work at Inc. was regrettable. Or you can use it in front of the noun like this. The people elected a regrettable politician. Okay, you guys try. Let's see what you can come up with. And I'll also say hello to my friend Khan from Uzbekistan. Wow, you're far away. Welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us. Great to have you with us. Yes, Araceli, the mice, they've been driving me crazy. They keep me up at night walking through the walls and stuff. Just terrible. But after last Friday, no more mice. So pretty confident I got them. You know, it's a shame because mice are kind of cute, right? They're not terribly dangerous or anything. I'm not afraid of them, but they're cute. The problem is the sound drives me crazy. Couldn't sleep. Okay, let's see what you guys come up with. Give me a sentence with regrettable. Something you wish had not happened, but it did. You wish it had not happened. Or it makes you feel sad and sorry about something, right? Because you regret it. Let's see what you come up with, guys. Type your sentence right into the comment thread so we can all share it. Let's see what you come up with. Have you guys been watching the Olympics? Do you like the Winter Olympics? Even though I'm from a country with a lot of snow, I actually prefer the Summer Olympics. I like the track and field events and the outdoor events more than the winter events. So I can't say that I've been watching it. Hopefully your countries are doing well, your athletes from your country. Okay, Araceli has an example. Not going to dentist earlier was regrettable. My teeth problem became worse. Yeah. Now, one little adjustment you should make is this word here, worst. Worst is a superlative, which means the number one worse. But if you're talking about became more worse than before, you should use worse rather than worst. Yeah. Great sentence, Araceli. Okay, we have Chris with an example. Stopping working out was a regrettable decision. Yeah, I understand. When you stop working out, what happens? We gain a little weight, right? That's regrettable. Yeah, it's a great adjective because it refers to past decisions, right? Decisions you made in the past that now, at the time you thought they were good decisions, but now they feel bad. Now they feel like you regret them. Okay, we have Wako's example. Wako says, "It is regrettable that I have not purchased an insurance along with a flight ticket which was canceled." You should always get your insurance, right? Yeah, it's regrettable that I have not purchased an insurance. Okay, good. Very good. Excellent. Perfect sentence, Wako. Very nicely done. Very complex. Anyone else have an example? How about Bargain Betty? Bargain Betty usually has good examples. But now that she's in the Twilight Zone, she might be too tired to offer an example. The Twilight Zone sounds like a complicated place to be living. Chieko, do you have an example? Tirath, how about you? Tirath usually has great examples for us. Have you ever done something that's regrettable? I have. When I was in high school, I was a terrible student. I never studied. I just liked playing sports and hanging out with my friends. So when I finished high school, my grades were really low. That was regrettable. My choice to not study, my habit of not studying, was regrettable. A terrible student in high school. I got better when I went to university, but I was a terrible high school student. Anyone else have an example? How about you, Khan? Khan from Uzbekistan. Do you have an example? Let's see what you guys can do. In the meantime, I'll clear my board and get ready for a question we're going to talk about. Anyone have an example? Oh, here we have Tirath. Tirath says, "My habit of buying smartphone every month is regrettable." I hope that's not true, Tirath. That's a lot of phones. That's 12 phones a year. You must be really wealthy. But if you buy a smartphone every month and you don't like it, or you regret spending the money, then that is a regrettable habit. Hopefully you're just making a sentence and you're not telling us your true habit. That's a lot of phones. Can't you wait till like once a year? Get a new phone once a year? My phone is 2017? 2015? I don't know. I think it's 2017, my phone. I haven't replaced it. Why? It still does what I need it to do. Okay. Any last sentence examples, guys, before we move on? Anyone else want to try using regrettable? If not, we're going to move on. Okay, anything coming in? Okay, going once, going twice, going 3 times. Let's clear the word of the day. Oh, okay, good. Okay, Araceli has a question. Let's get to that right away. Don't want to keep you waiting, Araceli. It's great to have you with us after a while. I haven't seen you in a while, so I want to answer your question. Can you write the question nice and clearly, exactly what you want to know, okay? Write exactly the question you want to ask. The more clear the question is, the more specific, the better answer we'll get out of this. When and how should I use participle clauses? Okay. When and how should I use participle clauses? Do you have an example you'd like to look at? That's always the best way to make it personal for you if you have an example. We have Roni from Bangladesh joining us. Good evening, Roni. Araceli, can you give me a nice example of a participle clause that you're wondering about? Something you've heard or read? There's a lot of different ways to make a participle clause, so I just want to make sure we're talking about the right one that you are interested in inquiring about. And for the rest of you, if you have questions, please type them in. Okay, Araceli, great. Perfect. Standing by. Guys, if you have a question about the English language, write your question in the comment box right now, and I'll get to it as soon as I can. And again, yeah, if you want to join the free webinar coming up on March 1st, please sign up with an email. It's a free event, but I need you to register in advance so I know how many people are coming. We have Adru Rezita joining us. Adru, where are you from? What country are you watching from? We have Denise joining us. Thank you. Denise Mendez. Great. Nice to see you guys. We're just waiting for a question to come in. Araceli's preparing for us. A nice example. Adru is from Mexico. Wonderful. Great. Start thinking about questions you want me to answer, guys, so we can move along nice and quick after this. Araceli's wondering about participle clauses. So that's our first topic. And that's usually a good topic. So I'm just going to get my pens ready. Oh, my pens are getting old. Gosh. Okay, get some fresh pens ready. When and how should I use participle clauses? Okay, here we go. Hiding behind the bushes, I held my breath. Great example. Okay, so, yeah, thank you, great. This is the participle clause. And the reason it's called a participle clause is because of this, hiding. Now, hiding comes from the verb to hide, but we don't want to start a sentence with an infinitive verb, so we want to change it to a gerund form, hiding. And once you do that, it's really a noun. Okay, it really acts like a noun. And therefore, it can be used in a phrase, it can be used as the subject. It can even be used as an adjective. For example, interesting movie. Interesting movie. Because once it's a noun form, nouns can be used as adjectives. So a lot of uses for a participle. But what is this really telling us? Well, it's modifying the main clause. And the main clause is over here. I held my breath. I held my breath. Okay? That's the main idea and the main action. What is this telling us in relation to that? It's telling us where you were behind the bushes. So we have a prepositional phrase here. Where you were when you did that action. It's telling us what you were doing. Hiding. That's an action, but it's in noun form. So there's another way you could understand these two ideas. You could say, I hid behind the bushes. Period. I held my breath. These are really the two ideas in two sentence forms, right? So I can kind of go backwards. I could say it this way. Subject, verb, and then prepositional phrase, right? I could say, I hid behind the bushes, period. Another sentence, I held my breath. Two complete sentences. That's the two meanings, right? I hid behind the bushes, boom, I held my breath. The difference is, this is a clause and that's a clause. It tells us a subject did an action. That's the emphasis. A subject did this thing. A subject did this thing. And it's the same subject. So we have repetition. Repetition's boring. Okay, so we have a little problem here. We have repeated subject. It's boring. So we want to fix that. English is not a language that likes or favors repetition, Araceli. Some languages do. In English, we want to avoid repetition until we absolutely need it, and then we use it for emphasis. When we absolutely need it, like I just did, I repeated it. Generally, we want to avoid it. So that's one thing we want to do here. We want to avoid the repetition of the subject. The other thing we want to do is, this is a clause, so it's emphasizing the thing that they did. I hid. But this clause, this idea, is not as important as this one in the way we want to express this. However, when you put two clauses like this, I hid, I held, each one has equal emphasis. You're just telling me that you did this action and you did this action, and they're both equally important. But I think what you're trying to do in this sentence is make this the main clause, the more important idea. So how do we make this idea less important? Well, we change it from being a clause so that this verb, this action, is less emphasized, and only that action is emphasized. Well, how do you do that? Take away the verb, change it out of the verb state. And again, we want to eliminate the subject repetition. So if we did that, well, we have a problem. In English, you can't have no subject in a verb. What you can do is change that verb into a gerund or a participle. Hiding behind the bushes, comma, I held my breath. Now, this is just modifying, this is the main idea. I held my breath. What were you doing when you held your breath? Well, hiding behind the bushes. So this is a way of taking two ideas and diminishing or reducing the emphasis of this one, because it's not a clause anymore. There's no verb here. So calling it a participle clause is not correct. It's actually a participle phrase, because now there's no verb. This is no longer a verb. Okay? Let's go back to the top example. Once it's in ing form, it's not a verb. It's a gerund or a participle. Ing is only a verb when you have the be verb and you're using present continuous or past continuous. I am standing. That's a verb form. Without the be verb, that's just a participle or a gerund. So it's actually acting as a noun. So what have we done here? We've made this the main idea. How? By de-emphasizing this idea. Okay, this is not the most important idea, even though it comes first. And in fact, now that it's a participle phrase, we can actually move it. We could put it here, or we could put it over here. We could say, I held my breath hiding behind the bushes. Either way, it doesn't have the same power. It's not a clause. Clauses have power because you have a subject and an action. Okay? So this is actually acting more like an adverb. It's telling us information about how you held your breath, right? So that's the long answer, Araceli. But remember what these are. These are two distinct ideas that could be kind of go backwards and find the clause in here. The clause is, I hid behind the bushes. But if we change it out of clause mode, right, we take away its emphasis. Now these two ideas are not equal. That's the main idea there. I held my breath. Hiding behind the bushes, I held my breath. And here's a way to test it, to show you that it has less emphasis. What if we substituted that with another kind of adverb, like yesterday? Yesterday, comma, I held my breath. That tells me when I did that action. So that substitution test tells me that this is acting adverbially. It's adverbially modifying held. It's telling us information about where you were and what you were doing when you held your breath. Okay? So when should you use them? Well, when you want to reduce this from clause state. Remember what it was. It was I hid. Because if you say I hid behind the bushes, period, I held my breath, what are you doing? You're kind of giving these equal power. Two actions I did. I hid behind the bushes, period. I held my breath, period. I waited for the killer to arrive, period. He came sneaking up. You might write like that if you're writing a story, and each moment has equal power for drama, right? But if you're not doing that, and you don't want the drama of a pace with equal emphasis, you can do this and make that the main idea by reducing the clauseness of this one, okay? That's when you should use it if you want that effect, right? There's no rule when you should use it. Araceli, this is a good way to understand it. If you don't have this, right? If you don't have this, you just have a simple statement. I held my breath. We don't know much about that action. We don't know much about when you did that, where you did that. So a participle clause does add more information. But it's important to understand it's de-emphasized information. Because if I just make two clauses, right? I hid behind the bushes, I held my breath. That's more information. I'm telling you a story almost. But each moment has equal power. So if you want to make that your main idea with some additional information, then you can use a participle, but it's not a clause, it's a phrase because there's no verb. A clause is made of a subject plus a verb. It needs a verb. Hiding behind the bushes. Now, it is possible to have a participle clause. You could say, actually, no, not with this phrase. So, yeah, that adds more information, but so does an adverb like yesterday, right? These are basically modifying that main idea. So that's definitely a way to do it. But it is important to remember where this comes from, how it's created. It's created by reducing a clause, right? To get rid of repetition and also to de-emphasize this one. Let me give you another example I can think of. It's the kind of thing you might hear in a novel, read in a novel or a story. You might see something like this. Look at these two actions, these two ideas. She ran down the street, period. She ate some cake. Those actions seem kind of separate, right? Like they're not happening at the same time. But you can change that to make this the main idea. She ran down the street. Comma. And we're going to, because it's both repetition, both subjects are the same, we can get rid of this one. But now we have an empty verb here. We have to change that to gerund form or participle form. Eating. She ran down the street eating some cake. So now it sounds like she's doing this at the same time she's running down the street. She ran down the cake eating some, she ran down the street eating some cake, comma, thinking about her friend. Like you can string these along, right? Eating some cake, thinking about her friend. So you're taking actions. She ate some cake. She thought about her friend. But by changing them to participle form, now in this long sentence we have one clause. She ran. So that's the main idea. And all of these are secondary ideas. So yes, They add information to the main clause. She ran down the street. It tells us what else she was doing when she ran down the street. But that's your main idea, and these are secondary. They become modifiers, right? Not having seen the incident, I'm not the best person to tell. Yeah, so that's another example. I'm not the best person, blah, blah. That's your main idea. Why? Because I did not see the incident. Those are two ideas that you could write in a full clause, but by reducing one to a participle phrase, it takes away its emphasis. And now you're left with one main idea, right? Otherwise, you just have several ideas repeating. I started my show. I raised my hands. I wrote on the board. I talked to the audience. Right? These are just separate ideas, and it sounds kind of monotonous. So this also kind of breaks up the rhythm. It emphasizes your main clause, but it also takes away that repetition monotony. Okay? Hopefully that helped you, Araceli. We have Maha with us. Maha, Maha, Maha. Welcome to the show. And Franco the tutor from Peru. Welcome. We have Maha in Toronto, Franco in Peru. And down below, I think I see my good friend Essa. Essa, where are you in the world these days, Essa? Dr. Essa. Okay. Okay, excellent. I'm glad that helped, Araceli. Thank you very much. So hopefully that also tells you when and why you should use them. You don't have to use them. They're an option. You could just write repeated clauses. I hid behind the bushes. I held my breath. I ran down the street. I ate some cake. I thought about the future. I thought about my friend. Like, you could just repeat the clauses, but that gets repetitive and gets very boring. Nobody wants to listen to me talk like that. And nobody wants to read something like that. So especially in writing, you want to have a variety of structures you can use to create a different rhythm. You don't want your English writing to be like electronic dance music with a steady beat. You want it to be more like jazz music. Good language should sound rhythmic, like salsa or samba or jazz. You want rhythm, you want syncopation, you want different structures. It creates a much more exciting and interesting expression. Okay, did I miss someone else's question? Okay, Adru is asking about 2 and 4. This is a question that comes up all the time. 2 and 4. Okay, Adru, because you're in Mexico, I assume you speak Spanish, right? So there's one thing you should learn, very, very simply. In English, there is no such thing as 4 plus verb. This is not possible in English. Okay? Not possible. Totally not possible. And I'll tell you why. 2 and 4 are prepositions. Prepositions have one job, and that's to come before nouns. Their job is to connect nouns to other words. A verb is not a noun. It's a verb. You cannot put 4 plus verb. You can't say this. This is not English. I went shopping for buy shoes. For buy. This is not possible in English. That's 4 plus a verb. 4 is a preposition. Preposition should come before a noun, not a verb. So this is not possible in English, okay? So I know it's possible in Spanish, and it's a common error for Spanish learners. So I want you just to get that out of your vocabulary. Don't put 4 plus a verb. This is 100% impossible. Okay? We should say, I went shopping, not for buy shoes. You can say, for shoes. Right? Preposition, noun. That's possible. I went shopping for shoes. Now, in English, 2 kind of has 2 jobs. That's why it's confusing. One job, sorry, okay, we know this is not possible. One job that to does is to work with a verb to make the infinitive verb, which may be what you're thinking of in Spanish like this, the infinitive. In English, we might say to buy shoes, to buy shoes. So if you said this, I went to the store. I went to the store. Oh, really, Paul? Why? When we think of the question why, we want an answer. We want a reason. Why did you go to the store? And the way to give an answer is to use the infinitive verb. I went to the store to buy shoes. Okay? Now, to plus verb is possible in English. Okay? It's totally possible. This is an infinitive verb. To plus verb. So that's job. That's one of the two jobs of to. And I know that's confusing because I told you preposition plus noun. So sometimes to is a preposition before a noun. Sometimes it's part of the verb. So we're going to take this out of that category. Sometimes to works with the infinitive verb, to do something. I came to Canada to study, to plus verb, to study English. Okay? When it's doing that, when it's to plus a verb, it's not really a preposition anymore. It's part of the verb. That's the way to think of it. Okay, so when do we use to as a preposition? When do we use to plus a noun? Well, the answer is kind of simple. Let me show you. To, I want you to remember this, to has a partner preposition. From. Okay, let's go back a minute. Prepositions connect nouns. Why do we need them? Because if you don't have them and you have two nouns, for example, my binder and my phone, okay? Two nouns, binder, phone. If I just tell you, hey, hi, binder, phone, you don't know the relationship between these two objects. It's impossible to know where they are in space in relation to each other. But if you add a preposition like phone, on, binder, now we can see the relationship in three-dimensional space. Phone, under, binder. Phone, beside, binder. Right? So, prepositions connect nouns and tell us their relationship. Let's go back to from and to. When do we use them? When we describe movement from an origin to a destination. Noun. So how does that work? Well, look at this one. I went to the store. Store is our destination. That's where I arrived. Where do you think I started from? Well, probably from home. So I could say I went from home to the store. From some place where I started, an origin, to my destination. From to. And in between there, we need a verb of movement. Like went, which is go. Or let's say, let me just clean the board up. Let's have a bunch of verbs like movement verbs. And there's a lot of them, but I'll just give you a few examples. Go, walk, run, fly, travel, drive, give something. All of these verbs express movement, right? And when you move from one place, one noun, to another place, and places are nouns. I move from my home to the store. Now, if you already know I started at home, I won't say that. I'll just leave it out. Of course I went from home. I'm always at home, so I don't need to say that. I just say I went to. But I'm using a movement verb, and it needs the to connect the noun of destination. I went from home to the store. I walked to work. I ran to my home. I flew to Brazil. I traveled to Japan. I drove to the mall. I gave a present. Well, it's Valentine's Day. I gave chocolate to. Now, give is an interesting one because give is movement, but not far. So I don't give to the store or to Brazil. I give chocolate from me to my wife. And by the way, my wife isn't really a destination, but she is a noun. Okay? So, movement verb, preposition to, and then the noun of destination, where it arrives, where it reaches. I gave my wife chocolate, right? I gave chocolate to my wife, from me, obviously. If it's in my hand, you can see it's coming from me, and that's why we don't say from. Okay? But from and to are always cognitively working together. In our thinking, they're partners. So even if you don't see from, it's implied that something moves from someplace to another. And there are hundreds of movement verbs. Hundreds. Just think of anything that can move and how you would express it. Fly, drive, walk, run, hurry, skateboarded, snowboarded, skied, skated. You know, I took a bus to town, right? I took a train to the other city. So that's the difference between to and for. Now what's for? For is a preposition that connects a noun of reason. So it works, the meaning works like an infinitive verb. It gives us a reason. I went to the store. Why, Paul? For shoes. So I can connect a reason with for, but it has to be in the noun form. Okay? Because for is a preposition to go with a noun. I can say, what's this pen for? I bought this pen. Why? For writing on the board. Right? Writing is a gerund. Comes from the verb to write, but now it's in ing gerund form. It works like a noun. For plus noun. Okay? So for plus noun, and the noun should be the reason. Right? I don't know, I came to Canada. Why? For work. For a job. For university. Okay, that's telling us the reason. It's not telling us the destination. It's telling us the reason. So when you're expressing a reason, you actually have two choices. For plus noun or to plus verb. Don't get them mixed up. There's no for plus verb in English. 100%. Doesn't exist. Okay? Hopefully that helps you out. In the meantime, I'll say hello to, yes, Essa is from Saudi Arabia. Great. Andrew from Taiwan. Welcome, 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 Andrew. And we have Angel Omar Ramirez Garcia from Mexico. Great to have you with us. Angel says, hi, Vertis. Vertis, is that someone's name? Or what does that mean, Angel? Hi, Vertis. Hi, Teacher Paul. Is that someone's name? that I'm missing? Or, and if it's not a name, what does it mean? Give us a little Spanish lesson. Okay, I'm going to clear the board, and we have time for a couple more questions, I think. Give me a moment, guys. Hopefully, Adru, this is helpful to you. 4 and 2 are a challenge, I understand, but hopefully that clears up some of the mystery. Okay. I have something to confirm. Can I say I walked from A to B? Absolutely. Right? Look at what you have there. Can we put that back up? You have from A, that's the place of origin, to B. I walked from home to school. Origin to, from origin, from noun of origin, to destination noun. That's the structure. Now, if your other person who you're talking to knows where you came from, we often drop that, right? Like if you're with your friends at school, you guys both know you're at school, you might say something like, hey, tonight, let's go to the pub. Obviously, you're leaving from the school. Eric is with us. Hi, Eric. Thanks for tuning in. Good morning to you, sir. Are you back in Korea? Holiday over? Hopefully it was a good one. Okay, so Angel says his phone translated it for him. It means hi, everyone. Vertice. Vertice? Okay. Adru says, wow, I found it hard to understand. Thank you very much. That's very kind of you. I'm just happy it helped clear that up. Okay, did I miss a question? You're welcome. By the way, Facebook user, what's your name? What happens is when you watch the live streams on in a Facebook group, when you comment, we can't see your name. So I appreciate you watching, but it's always better to watch on my Facebook profile page, Paul Duke, or Teacher Paul Duke, or on YouTube or LinkedIn. Okay, so Eric says, I'm quarantined for a week at home. Happy to join. Oh, great. Great to have you with us. Hopefully you get through that no problem. I actually traveled at Christmas to Toronto to see my family, and when I came back, I had COVID, despite being vaccinated. So I hope you escape that possibility, Eric. It's not pleasant. Andrew, how are you? How's Taiwan? Taiwan. Okay, we have a question from Denise. How may I use it? Subject question with or in progressive. Okay, Denise, how can we put that question up? Go down. What is subject question? How may I use it? Okay. WH subject question. With or in progressive. Do you have an example we can examine? That's usually helpful. I think what you're asking me is a structure like this, something like, what book are you reading now? Something like that, Denise? Is that what you're asking me? What book are you reading now? If you have another example, please type it in the comment box. In the meantime, I'll use this example. So this is a question, right? And it's in progressive. When you're confused, I always like to suggest break the sentence down to its parts. What are the parts of speech, right? Well, I think we can see the progressive or continuous verb, right? We have the be verb plus the ing. So that's our verb, okay? This is what? Is that the subject or is that the object? Here, what book? We have a noun. Is that the subject or is that the object? When you make a question like this, what book? It tells us that the person asking this question doesn't know the name of the book. In other words, they don't know what that noun is. That's why they're asking. So the question, to identify the subject, the question really is, who's doing the action? You or the book? Is the book reading or you reading? Well, clearly we read. Humans read. So you is the subject. So what this is asking for is the object. What book? That's going to be the object, right? But it's unknown right now. And you can imagine an answer something like this. A possible answer would be, I am reading Harry Potter. Actually, I've never read Harry Potter, right? And here you have a subject and then the be verb plus the ing verb. And then over here, Harry Potter is your object. So that's a potential answer. That's a possible answer. So that's a perfectly well-structured sentence. What book are you reading now? So you're asking me if you can use it in progressive? Absolutely. It has nothing to do with tense. You can say, what book are you reading now? You can say, what book did you read last week? What book have you read before? You can say, what book were you reading when I phoned? Right? You can even use the future. What book will you read next year? I don't know, or next week on the airplane. So the tense of the verb doesn't matter. Right? The tense doesn't matter. Yeah, it's part of question patterns, didn't he say? But you can ask a question, what book, right? You want to know the object. What book are you reading? I am reading this book. I am reading this book, Raw Shark Texts. I am reading it. The answer could be, I read Raw Shark Texts last year. I have read it before in my life. I was reading this when you phoned. I will read this sometime in the future. So the verb tense doesn't matter. The structure is, what book? Because I don't know. So you start with the question, what book? And then any verb tense. Right? Any verb tense. Questions can be asked about any tense. Why? Because sometimes we don't know information about the past. Sometimes we don't know information about right now. Sometimes we don't know information about the future. So we can ask questions about anything. Okay, Denise is asking, in this question, what were you doing when the phone rang? Yeah, that's fine. That's perfect. What were you doing when the phone rang? So there's two actions kind of intersecting, right? I was reading. That's happening. And then suddenly you phone, or the phone rang, right? Two actions. One is going along and the other cuts it off and intersects it, crosses with it. That's possible. When you ask a question, use the question word first. What were you doing? How did you make that pizza? Right? When did you cut your hair? Right? Why did you cut your hair? Where did you buy that pizza? Right? So question words, it's how you start the sentence, and it represents the information you don't know. Right? What book? I don't know the name of the book. That's why I'm asking, what book? So I expect a noun, the name of the book, as an answer. I expect an object, right? If I ask, why did you read that book? I expect a sentence because I want an explanation. I want a reason. I read that book because it was interesting, right? Hopefully that clears that up for you. Now, I would say this about questions. You'll notice all of these main verbs, read, well, they're all read, I guess, or eat pizza or whatever. Everything changes when you make a question. Everything is different for the be verb, right? The what structure works with any verb, any action verb. Be verb, to make a question with be verb is a little different. The be verb in English has an extraordinarily unique power. It's a little word, but it has a lot of power. I am reading Harry Potter. Okay, that's a statement. But if I want to change that to a question, how do I do it? Now, this is a bit silly, but this is how you do it. You take the subject and the verb and you cross positions. Am I reading Harry Potter? Now, usually you don't ask a question about your own actions, but let's say she is reading Harry Potter, and I want to make that into a question. Well, I would say, is she reading Harry Potter? Just switch the subject and the verb. That's how you make a question with the be verb. What if you want to add a question word to this? Is she reading Harry Potter? Let's say we don't know the name. We want to know the name of the book. Well, you take that same structure and you add the question word. What? What is she reading? Because I don't know the name. Why is she reading that book? When? And so on, right? When is she reading that book? When does she read the book? So in English, there's kind of two categories of verb. There's the be verb, has its own special power, and then there's all the other action verbs and state verbs. They work in their own way, right? Guys, we're almost out of time, so hopefully that helped you. In fact, we are out of time, so I'm going to wrap up, guys. Just a reminder, if you want to join my writing webinar on March 1st, 12 p.m., Vancouver time, so calculate that with your local time. This is a 1-hour webinar. It's totally free, but I need you to register in advance by emailing me. So email me at hardboiledenglish6@gmail.com and just say, I don't know, I want to join the webinar, okay? And then you'll get an email back with a link, okay? And in this webinar is going to be focused on writing hooks. It's focused on writing and how to start a paragraph or start an essay or an article or an email even. Okay, we want to learn how to write a hook. The reason I'm doing this is because a lot of my students say, oh, my teacher said I need a hook, but my teacher didn't tell me how to write one. So I'm going to. So please join this, guys. It'll be fun. And again, it's totally free. And if you haven't already, check out my podcast that I co-host with Anish Dea and John McGraw, and our recent guest, who is a cross-cultural management consultant. He consults businesses going abroad, Mr. Kawatani Takashi. And that's on YouTube, my YouTube channel, and Spotify. It's called the Ego Education Podcast. And of course, the YouTube channel always has videos, recordings of this show, English weirdness. If you missed a part of the show, it'll be posted on YouTube tomorrow, the full hour. Okay? Guys, if I didn't answer your question today, we run out of time. I promise I'll answer it next week. So I'm going to record whatever questions are still outstanding in the comment thread. Eric, I hope your quarantine goes well and you come out of that ready to teach as wonderfully as you always do in Korea. And I hope you had a great vacation. The rest of you guys, I hope you're all safe and well. wherever you are in the world. Thank you very much for joining me this week, guys. We missed last week, and I missed you, and I missed your questions. So until I see you again next Friday, same time, same place, I want you all to stay safe, stay healthy, take care of your families, and as always, guys, stay cool.